Hey everyone. I wanted you to hear that because it's kind of the basis of this video today. It's about the fairy tale life here in Costa Rica and the sound, the symphonics, like the living so-called symphony that's going on, um, is constant, and it's something that almost becomes a white noise, an unconscious thing when you're living here. And whenever I'm on the phone with somebody or video chatting, they bring it up how beautiful it is and how comforting to them it is to hear these sounds. So I wanted to record a little bit, and honestly, I wish I had done this earlier in the day because it was brighter and it was sunnier. Um, but at the same time, it's very hot right now in the summer season. We just got a little bit of rain, and you can see it's clouded over, which is beautiful because it's a little bit cooler here now. So I would estimate the temperatures somewhere in the mid 80s, but because the sun's not glaring, it's reasonable to sit out in the wide open without having to be under the shade. And there's breezes where I live and so on, because thank goodness we have huge, amazing trees here. This is a Guanacaste tree, which is absolutely enormous. You've seen this in other videos of mine. I probably can't even capture all of it on camera. It's hundreds of feet high, even older in years. Um, my neighbors estimate this is 500 to 600 years old, which means when this property was being used to grow tobacco for the Aztec and Huaytar civilizations that were passing back and forth, to Colombia, to Peru, to the Andes, and then all the way up towards Mexico. Um, this was the center of trade, and this tree was around. So, just like myself and my friends here enjoy coffee on my property, admiring this tree and the shade it draws for us, um, and the peace, the sight, the beauty it brings to us. So did the ancients in civilizations that we only can admire nowadays, and imagine that we might be able to mimic what they did in such a short amount of time. But anyway, this tree earlier had, I would estimate, 24 macaws, scarlet macaws. Here they call them lapas, just hanging out. And I'll record some shorts, this week as well. But they just hang out and they eat what seems to be some type of, it's like a pine nut, but it comes off of these interesting, weird vines. I don't know, just a different like fruit thing that they eat that's up in the trees high up, and then they drop them down as they're shearing them off because they have big beaks. Like the macaw's beak is probably bigger than my hand and super sharp, and they can crunch through almonds, raw almonds, with the green raw casing on the outside like nothing. So if a macaw ever bit a human, it would take a chunk out just like you would imagine a shark would, which is very interesting. Um, but that's life in paradise, living truly a fairy tale. That, I have this enormous ancient tree that has literally living memories in it from civilizations that we only can admire and speculate about. This tree actually has the real story. If we could somehow tap into the neurogenetics of the tree with some advanced technology one day, maybe AI will help us, and we'll be able to see all the memories that these trees might have, which, how amazing would that be, right? And then that tree magnetizes and draws in 25 scarlet macaws to hang out in my property and eat while I'm sitting here drinking my coffee, enjoying this fairy tale. Now, this is the fun stuff of fairy tales, but just like in Peter Pan, there was, fairies and mermaids and magic, the wonderful stuff of fairy tales, but there's also killer crocodiles, there's also pirates that are trying to steal from you and maybe even kill you, and that does happen. This is like a real legitimate fairy tale. For example, while I'm enjoying myself through the holidays here, lucky, blessed, grateful, there was a news story posted in Parita about a woman, I think in her 60s, who was found the day after New Year's, I think, or soon after Christmas, tied up, and she had her throat cut. That somebody had robbed her, some young gang had robbed her through the holidays. Like, how terrible. Who knows if they even got anything? Maybe they just killed her because she said, "I don't have anything to give you," and they didn't want to get caught and identified, especially with, no outcome, and she was dead. So, just like a fairy tale as we grew up, and not even just the Grimm brothers fairy tales, but I mean, Snow White and Cinderella and a lot of these stories had that beautiful hawk from the other day again. Had stories like this. There was a bad side. There was bad guys. There was evil that you have to avoid. And my story, by my, intention by telling this is, yes, Costa Rica can very much be the beautiful side of a fairy tale. Literally, like, you can build a kingdom the way that you want it, with all the things that you could ever dream of having. I mean, my dream is the basketball court, and now I'm going to have a restaurant, and we're going to have all these, like an eco mall on this property, so all these really cool stores that filled with products that I personally would want to buy, that I know other people would want to buy. But you can build your dream worlds here. But at the same time, the fairy tale, you have to acknowledge that there's always villains in the world. A place like the United States or Iran or Afghanistan or Sudan may not feel like the positive, fun fairy tales that we want to live, but all those places have good and bad. They just, at this time in history, are way more overwhelmingly bad in many aspects. But nonetheless, there are fairy tales, and there are people that are living in those countries that have ascended to safety and security and a billionaire status, and obtained perfection or protection for themselves, perfection of themselves. But as well, they have villains in their world that they need to be concerned about and weary of, just like we do here. As much as it's a beautiful fantasy and I feel secure and safe and protected by my neighbors and my community and the divine realm and the spirit guides helping me, and my guardian angels and God itself, himself, herself, all of this, the earth. I'm putting so much love and energy and work into this earth that I know she'll protect me, and if somebody comes to harm me, the jaguar will come out and eat that person finally, or the puma. I have always trusted in this, so it's definitely a mindset thing, but the fairy tale that could be Costa Rica also is going to have its villains that you have to be aware of and mindful of, and not unconscious to, because that just better prepares you. It doesn't mean that this video is meant to instill fear upon you, because it shouldn't. The fact that the current is so strong off the Pacific coast that it does literally swallow up people, it doesn't mean don't go in the ocean. It just be mindful and be a good swimmer, and have an awareness of how the undertow works and how it flows out in this kind of circular motion. You swim sideways instead of inward, and you're never going to swim fast enough to outpower the ocean. It's pulling you out at 5 miles an hour. You might be able to swim 1 mile an hour. You're never going to win that competition. So little bits of knowledge, I don't know this woman's story or what the history was behind it, but just a great set of tips that I learned living in Costa Rica so far is, don't let people see you taking money. If you take money out of an ATM, like, go to a restaurant and hang out there and see who might be watching you, because people might be actually stalking the ATM machines and see somebody that looks like an easy victim. They're not going to come after me. I look like a fucking gang member or a drug dealer or something, probably, because a lot of the cartel guys in the country, like, they have the hand tattoos and the neck and face tattoos, so I might look like one of them, and they don't want to fuck with me. I also am like a foot taller than everybody, and from what I've been told from my friends in town, like, I do have kind of an intimidating look because I am a little bigger than everybody. So in that sense, I'm protected. But to me, I thought that might make me a victim because I look different and I'm not from this country, and people might notice that, and they might hear that I have some money and live in a bigger house and a bigger property. But I'm very aware of who's watching me, hopefully, in a negative way. And that's just something to be aware of. Like, definitely don't be wearing jewelry that's in a million of these videos. But if you're hopping out of a fancy car going to an ATM unconscious of who might be watching you town to town, I mean, that's how you might get in trouble. Through the holidays, it could have been that some of these guys saw this woman spending a lot of money for her kids and grandkids and knew that she lived in an easily accessible place from the highways and to get in and out really quick. And that's why they came after her, and they probably hit a wrong day where she had given all her stuff away and didn't have anything, and they did what they did. I don't know if they got anything, but you'll hear stories about that, kidnappings, where they just want people to withdraw everything they can from their ATM and then they let them go, or beat them up a little bit, but not usually does it end in death. But you never know, so be aware of your surroundings. If you feel like anybody's following you or something like that, call the police. Go into a business, tell them what's going on, or just ask them for help. If you have friends in town, call them and ask to be picked up and just drive around a little bit, or do that yourself, like walk around so these people don't know where you're going. Be strategic about it. I'm not an expert in evasion techniques, but be self-aware, if you feel like somebody's watching you or following you, they might be, and you can confront people. And when you confront people, their initial reaction is probably going to tell you their intention. If they get angry and frustrated at you, they probably got caught on some shit. But if they're like, "Oh my God, no, I'm so sorry, like not at all, like I apologize," probably innocent, and you just misunderstood it. But there's no harm, because you might make a friend. They might see you as paranoid and as somebody that's not comfortable being around other people, and they might say, "Hey, listen, like come for a coffee," because that's how Ticos are, and they might make friends with you to make you feel a little more comfortable and safe, and to show other people that you have connections in the town. So they're very good about that. So definitely establish yourself with a network of friends and trusted people, and they're going to protect you like they would a family member. But anyway, I just wanted to say that yes, Costa Rica can very much be like a fairy tale in a million different ways. Toucans, macaws, monkeys were on my mango tree today, and they came over and said hi to me through my window. So like super, super, super fairy tale life, absolutely. But remember, in every fairy tale there was always villains, and if you think about it, in the fairy tales, they were usually quite close to the protagonists of the story and the heroes of the story. So be aware of your surroundings, what's going on, what your neighbors and what your people in your community are telling you about certain people to be aware of, and realize that gossip here is a lot different than gossip in North America. Gossip in North America, I mean, you might hear horrible things about the best person in the world, and then you meet them and you learn who they truly are, and that those other people are just jealous weirdos, and that's culture in the US. They think that talking bad about a good person makes them look better, but it's absolutely false. We all know that, and that's, for some reason, that's just the cycle in the US, and people can't snap out of it. Here, when people are talking badly about somebody, it usually has some credential to it, credibility to it, as far as I've learned. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, especially being in a new country, in a new place. I don't want to be prejudiced against anybody based on rumors I hear, but things I've heard badly about other people, I've experienced them, the same things from these people. So be very, very observant of what your neighbors are telling you. If you trust somebody, a friend in town, and they tell you careful of this person, be careful of that person. It's a small country. They know everybody. They know everybody's history, and they look out for the people that they care about. So anyway, enjoy the fairy tale, but just be mindful so you can maintain the fairy tale for the rest of your lives happily.